The Affordable Housing Forever Act. There are two phases, the 2-year initial prohibition followed by the 10-year disposition period. As soon as the plan goes into effect, the purchasing of land and/or housing structures for investment purposes is forever banned. Housing units may only be purchased by owner-occupants. A buyer's former residence must go on the market within 6 months of the new purchase date and must be sold within 1 year of the new purchase date. The disposition period begins 2 years after the initial prohibition begins. At this point, any housing held as investment must be sold within 10 years at the rate of 10% per year of the aggregate value of one's housing holdings at the beginning of the disposition period, less the value of one's primary residence. Failure to meet these guidelines will result in fines to be assessed every year. We're talking about serious fines that will have a very negative effect on these investors' bottom lines. Multi-unit dwellings will be sold as individual units, paving the way for multi-unit co-ops. Instead of throwing your money away every month, you will be purchasing your apartment. You will have your foot in that elusive door. You will have the housing security. You will have the building of equity that our inequitable system enables landlords to rob from you. Until cities have fulfilled their affordable housing requirements, secondary homes will be treated as investment units. To address inflation, sales prices of land and all existing homes will be limited to purchase price adjusted for general inflation plus fair market value of improvements less depreciation of improvements. Required down payments for existing home purchases will start off at 20% of purchase price, will increase 2% per year for 15 years, and will remain at 50% from there on. Mortgage terms will start out at a maximum of 25 years, will decrease by 1 year per year for 15 years, and will remain at a maximum of 10 years from there on. If the inflation provisions of this plan were lost on you, check out my videos about money supply and inflation. Understanding basic economic concepts is crucial to recognizing the tools of economic control and subjugation we average everyday citizens are constantly being subjected to. Upon passage of the AHFA, a moratorium on non-necessity housing construction loans will go into effect. This moratorium will be lifted for housing loans in cities that have met their affordable housing requirements. Lending guidelines will be put into place that mandate funding of construction of necessary affordable housing to be determined yearly by a housing board. This housing board will be made up of proven housing advocates who have met housing advocacy qualifications and who are then elected by the people to represent 12 regions of the country, identical to the 12 Federal Reserve districts, serving 4-year terms and who are prohibited from taking money from donors. Campaign guidelines will go into effect ensuring all qualified candidates have equal media exposure. The election of housing board members will be corporation-proof. The big corporations will no longer be able to hijack the democratic institution of our housing rights. This board will determine housing construction interest rates for different housing types, with necessity-based housing receiving the lowest rates and luxury-based housing receiving the highest rates. Our good friends at the Federal Open Market Committee will relinquish to the AHFA Housing Board the duties of setting interest rates and determining availability of money and credit for any and all land and housing purchases. To address supply, the federal government will undertake construction of new, necessity-based, energy-efficient, non-toxic, weather and disaster-resistant homes that meet UN guidelines for dignified housing. The smallest sustenance units will house those who can't support themselves and would otherwise be homeless. Successively larger units will be available to those who qualify, with the smallest units prioritized to the lowest income earners. Prices will be based on cost, mortgages will be held by the federal government, and rates will be determined by the new AHFA Housing Board. These homes will be forever prohibited from being used to secure a loan for anything other than the purchase of the home itself. For those who fall behind on mortgage payments, suitable work programs will be offered. As a last resort, an occupant may be moved to a smaller, economically feasible unit. However, an occupant can never be evicted unless a smaller or sustenance model is available to them. Check out my video, 10 Reasons We Need a Housing Revolution, to get an understanding of the wide swath of damage our dysfunctional land and housing system is causing our economy as a whole, that it's doing to our ability to bring innovation to market, to our ability to compete as a global producer, and how it's stifling small businesses, and how it's crushing the ethos of we the people. So all right, fellow citizens, American history books are waiting for we the people to write the new unit on the great housing rights movement. As the decommodify land and housing movement becomes loud enough, unified enough, effectively communicates its vision with the masses, and proves its unyielding determination, things will begin shifting for all of us. All right, over and out.